What's up, everybody? I am just listening back to this week's episode of On the Perf Podcast, which, if you're not checking that out already, I highly doubt you follow this channel and don't follow that. But if you're not, go check it out. This week we were talking about our progression of 3-gun pistols, and I realized that I completely botched the story. I forgot a complete chapter of that. And that was already a long episode already. We shoot it from the hip. It's posted. So we're not going to redo it. But retraction statement, I remembered this morning that I actually had a different first 3-gun pistol that I didn't talk about. If you go listen to the episode, we're talking about the end of the Deltone Luth era of 3-gun in Minnesota. They had a range closure, essentially. So my first local 3-gun match that I ever shot was actually a 2-gun match, and it was the last match that club was going to and ever did. So I got hooked just in time for basically multi-gun in Minnesota to get shut down, which is ironic now. But I got hooked, and then it was kind of a what now kind of thing. And at the time, remember, 3-gun is a super outlaw sport at this time, even more outlaw than it is now. People who have shot the sport less than 10 years have no idea what kind of stuff was going on back then. It was very loose. Anyway, so everyone in Minnesota who loved those Deltone matches kind of had a what now look on their face. And around this time, remember, my first entry into competitive shooting sports, or at least the action shooting sports, was IDPA. I was a very active IDPA shooter in and around the 2007-2010 time frame. And also around this time, IDPA decided to come out with their own version of multi-gun. I think it was called Defensive Multi-Gun, DMG. And it was exactly what it sounds like. It was kind of cool, but also kind of IDPA lame. But in our area, we had a very active IDPA club. And some of those guys were the 3-gun guys from Deltone. They're like, IDPA is giving us a format. We have a range. It wasn't as good of a range as Deltone was, but they had a range. They had an active club and now a new format. They were like, we're gonna try DMG. I haven't gone and looked back at what the rule sets were for those. But DMG is still defensive multi-gun, so it was still IDPA. It was loosely based around the rules of the IDPA divisions. And you still had to use, I think concealment was still in there. You still had to wear your fishing vest at first. And so we were doing that kind of stuff, and DMG was the game. It was the only game in town if you wanted to shoot more than one gun at a time for a while, and that was really my first foray into local 3-gun. So being based around IDPA divisions, I elected to use an enhanced service pistol, an ESP pistol, and a friend of mine at the time had a retail shop, and I ended up buying an STI at that time, way before they rebranded into Staccato, but an STI Spartan 9mm single stack. That was my first 3-gun pistol. Because there was no major minor, so I decided I needed a 9mm gun. There were a couple guys in our IDPA club. Our IDPA club would let you shoot 2 divisions, and the guys who were super cool, man, the real cool thing to do in IDPA at that time was to have the matched pair of Springfield single stack 1911. So There was the Springfield Trophy Match, which was a quasi custom shotgun, kind of like the TRP. It wasn't a custom shotgun, but it was pretty nice for decent money. So you had the Springfield Trophy Match, and then you could also get a Springfield loaded target model, and basically with a few accessories you could configure it the same as a trophy match. So you had a brace of pistols that were essentially the same in different calibers. You could shoot ESP and CDP, custom defensive pistol, with the same belt rig. There were 2 guys for sure that I remember that did that. I was always jealous of them a little bit for that. But back to multi-gun. So I was like, oh, well, I just need an ESP gun. I'm going to get this STI Spartan. And so STI had a couple levels of single stack gun at the time. This was the lowest level. It was a Filipino frame. It was Parkerized. It didn't even have a ramped barrel. It was a pretty crude gun by my standards now. But I started out with that Springfield Spartan 9mm. The next level up I remember was the Trojan. Trojan was a very sought after gun. Like, you were pretty cool if you had a Trojan at that time. I never did, and I wouldn't buy one now. But STI Spartan 9mm, and I thought, again, here's how green I was at the time. I thought I was pretty hot shit. I was like, I don't even need the capacity. I'm really good single stack shooter. I'll just shoot that. And in DMG, that would fly because they had the capacity restrictions. But then what became the Minnesota 3-gun group, the club, started to also gain traction. So, if memory serves, there's four friends who were cops from different agencies. They got together and formed what would become the Minnesota 3-gun group. Minnesota 3-gun group is a club in Minnesota, or was a club in Minnesota, and they did club outlaw 3-gun matches, and then that became the Nordic tactical shotgun matches, and then that became the tri-gun, and the tri-gun ultimately caught COVID and died, and that's where we picked up the torch with multi-gun nationals in Minnesota. So there's even another history lesson for you. But when Minnesota 3-gun group was starting to do outlaw matches again, they were starting to breathe life into it again. They were using the traditional 3-gun divisions, and that was where I ran up against normal high, in terms of pistols, standard capacity pistols. And I thought I was hot shit. I was like, I can reload a single stack gun so fast. Man, with that mag well on there, I'm so fast. I don't even need the bullets. I was wrong. I specifically remember, I don't know if he's still out there. I know he's still out there. I don't think he's active in the sport. My friend Mike V, if you're still out there, I hope you're doing well. But Mike V, is the quintessential Glock guy. He was a hardcore Glock 34 shooter in IDPA, and he had a cool one. There was kind of limited run before this was cool. There was limited runs of green Glocks, so you could get the baby poop blue, brown, green. You didn't even know what color it was, but it was not black. He had one of the OD frame Gen 3 Glock 34s. Man, that thing was cool. I really wanted one of those too. I might even buy one someday if I find one for the right price. But I remember being squatted with Mike because he was my friend, and he just in having 17 rounds in his Glock 34, he wiped my floor one weekend, and I was like, oh, maybe I can't reload a single stack gun that fast to compete with that. And so that was when I decided that I needed a Glock 34. And my friend Jason, who worked at a gun store at the time, now he works for APF, my friend Jason Lee, he got me the hookup on that Glock 34 that I reference in the story. So just cut and paste, splice this in to that progression of pistols. I'm kind of sad that I forgot it now, because Riser would have probably had some funny derogatory things to say to me about that choice. But I completely spaced on that pistol. I had a STI Spartan as my first 3-gun pistol. I ended up trading it for another 9mm single stack, so I don't have it anymore. It is long gone. And even the pistol I traded it for is also long gone. Did not survive in my collection. But that was it. When I first started, gosh, I haven't thought of DMG in a minute. And even at that time, like the guys who were into 3-gun, I mean, they were an outlaw bunch, even though they were IDPA guys. Eventually, it kind of turned into, we called it DMG on paper, but they're like, nah, we're just doing 3-gun. We're doing 3-gun at our IDPA club is what we're doing. So like, oh yeah, fill up the tubes and no cover garment. They're like, that stuff's dumb. We want to shoot multi-gun, and this was the way to do it. So Stuart, if Stuart's still out there, I think he still is. I'm not sure if he's active, but Stuart and Scott and John, those guys from Twin Cities IDPA, when 3-gun left us and we had to get it going again, they were the guys that got it going with defensive multi-gun. And I actually started with IDPA-esque gear, and then as proper outlaw 3-gun caught steam or caught momentum in Minnesota, it quickly became apparent that you do in fact need a full capacity pistol to be competitive in TAC optics. And so I would shoot that Glock 34 for a long time, and then ultimately moved into 1911 style pistols, wide body 1911 style pistols again. And if you're interested in the rest of the story, head on over and check out On the Perf Podcast, where we talk about the rest of it. But I just felt the undying need. I had to splice this little piece of the story in there for you guys. I think I even still have a picture of that gun stashed away somewhere in some album. So I'll try to cover art that in here so you can see it. But that, in fact, I'm sorry, I got it wrong. This is my retraction statement. A Glock 34 was not my first 3-gun pistol. It was, in fact, a single stack 1911. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Hope that was enjoyable. I do have ideas for other videos I am working on for you guys, and they'll be rolling out here. But for now, that will tide you over until the next one. So be easy, everybody, and we'll see you on the range.